Hello, good morning. We're live. My name's Shamash, author of Mindfulness for Dummies, and today I'm going to be talking all about cooperation and how to go from a competitive mindset and living competitively to more cooperation. Well, one of the things I want to start with by sharing is most people associate Charles Darwin, the guy who came up with evolution theory, as talking about survival of the fittest. But actually, he didn't use that term. In fact, if you look back at his books, I understand that he actually talked about organisms surviving as the ones that were most empathic, the ones that were more sympathetic, the ones that cared for each of the other organisms in their tribe, in their group, in their community. And that makes a lot of sense. If we're all completely isolated and competing with each other, we don't cooperate, then we're much less likely to be successful and survival becomes harder. But when we cooperate, when we work together with others, then the whole group has a greater likelihood of survival. And we can see that on the level of humanity right now. Perfect example in the middle of a pandemic. The more there is competition and fighting between countries, between different parts of a country, the longer it takes to overcome the challenge. The more that the countries can come together and work together and use solutions as one, the quicker that they can actually fight something like a pandemic successfully. One example that comes to mind, I was watching a video early on in the pandemic about China and how China managed to overcome the virus relatively quickly once it began to spread. And there's some team of people, including the World Health Organization, that went out to China, and they had access to all the different things that they were doing and how they were controlling it. And all the different states in China, I don't know how many there are. Let's say there's 100. I think there is so many. Let's say if there's 30 different regions in China, each of those regions have tens of millions of people, or maybe even more, and little elements of the virus were in all of those places. And they had a control center and parts, and in any region where there was less virus, and the doctors and the nurses were all willing to travel to the areas where there was more contamination, and they were even willing to share their personal protective equipment and other stuff and travel from one part of the country to the other to help deal with that challenge. There was a huge amount of cooperation happening within the country, and they're able to overcome it very, very quickly. And so that gives an example of what cooperation can do. And other countries have shown examples of that as well. So when I looked up the root meaning of the word cooperation, it actually means working together to one end. It's about 400 or 500 years old, that word cooperation. And when I think of cooperation, the first thing I think about is win-win. And many of you have heard of the concept of win-win. Um, but we forget how powerful that is. And I think one of the first things you can do to try and cooperate more and create more opportunities for cooperation is to actively look for win-win opportunities. So rather than think of what can I do on my own, how can I solve this problem on my own, you think about, okay, it's much better to create a win-win scenario. Who could I work with? Which group, which team, which people could I work with to solve this challenge? Whatever the challenge is for you, and then take action on it and be the first person in that pair or in that group to take action to start cooperating. Let's just take the example of this video that I'm doing now. I'm creating a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live free, and the win-win is that on my side, I enjoy teaching and I enjoy teaching new concepts, and I like sharing it with others. And from your side, I guess you like learning, you want to learn some new information, you want to discover something new about mindfulness, perhaps, and you can learn about it for free using these platforms, because even the platforms don't charge anything for it. And so that creates a win-win scenario on both sides. It's great for me, it's great for you. So there's an example of a mini win-win. But then there's probably other things that we could do that I haven't thought of. Maybe you sharing it or me sharing it, or I don't know, maybe me answering more of your questions, so you could tell me more about what your challenges are, and I could create programs or courses to help solve that problem. So there's probably even more levels of cooperation that we could do. Second thing is to reward cooperation. There's organizations, and I think this is partly what caused the financial crash, wasn't it? people being rewarded not for creating a win-win scenario, but for individually being rewarded financially. And so you got certain small groups of individuals getting loads of rewards and lots of competition being created in companies. And then people start fighting against each other, and the company collapses, or even the economy can collapse. It's much better to reward cooperation. Now, this is a really interesting story that I want to share with you. So, one of the things for car manufacturers want to do is they want new ideas for ways that they can improve the production of cars. And in America, what they did is they thought, okay, let's give people a really big reward, $500 for any company, for any staff that come up with a new way in which we can improve the production. And what happened is that they got a new idea. They got maybe one or two new ideas every year from each staff member. Uh, and potentially each staff member then got $500 extra every year for this amazing idea that they came up with. In Japan, rather than giving a very big reward for an idea, they decided to give a very small reward, just $1, $2, $3, something like that, every time they gave an idea. And so each staff member gave a new idea every day. And so, on average, there was like 200 new ideas per person that could be implemented quite easily too. And what they found was that was much more effective. What they discovered is that when they were giving big rewards to individuals for new ideas to help improve the production of the car, the problem was is that they kept the idea for themselves. They didn't want other people to find out about their idea. They kept it secret, and when the time was right, they wrote it down and they sent it, and they wanted their $500. But if the idea is just worth $1 or $2 or $3, people were just sharing ideas and writing them down and sharing it with each other, and you got much more of a cooperative atmosphere as well. So it's good to reward, but if the reward is too big, it's unhelpful as well because it creates competition amongst the staff and fear, and you're not creating a collaborative atmosphere. So I think that's really interesting. And probably you know this, but people think that they just that financial reward is one of the best rewards, but actually something like praise and gratitude is far more powerful. We make the assumption that human beings are like animals, and in that you just give a financial reward and they'll just keep doing it, and you just give them more money and they'll do more. But we get much more out of our work and our everyday, even, and praise and gratitude and being part of a community and feeling like what you're doing is valuable is far more valuable for staff and for individuals. And that's why we find people doing the most incredible pieces of work when they're just volunteers. Or a lot of healthcare workers, they're sometimes not rewarded that much financially at all, but they still want to do it because of they feel it's so meaningful for them. So reward by praise, and give fair rewards for people too. That's important. And finally, this one's a little bit different, but thinking about cooperation, you need to step out from your ego, from this illusory idea that I am just my thoughts, my feelings, and it's all about me, me, me. And one way in which to discover that is through quiet time and meditation. I think it's one of the best ways that I can think of. Volunteering is another good one, actually. That's a great way to realize the ego. But I don't think you'd fully understand it until you take some quiet time to realize the thoughts that are popping into your head are literally just thoughts popping into your head, and it's not who you truly are. And so there needs to be some form of quiet time, whether it's done through yoga or meditation or some other way, maybe spending time in nature and realizing that you're not your thoughts. And I think that's an important part of cooperation too. So I'll just zoom it in a bit more so you can see it. There you go. There's my ideas. You can see the little ring thing of ways to cultivate more cooperation. I hope you found that helpful. As I said, let me know if you have any questions or comments or things you want me to cover in future videos. Create a win-win scenario that way. And in terms of things coming up, today's Wednesday, so I'll be sending out my newsletter with some new information that you only get in the newsletter. So you can sign up on my website, Shamash Aladina, or you can actually type mindfuldude.com. Maybe I should just call myself Mindful Dude. It'd be easier to remember. to have it link. Yeah, we've got a mindful rave coming up, mindful Halloween rave on the 31st of October, which will be really, really fun. It's a new kind of mini experiment that we're doing. What else have we got going? We'll be starting a new month of the Daily Mindfulness Club in November. It's 21st of October now, so not too far off. So that's another thing to check out. And I think that's about it for now. If you have any ideas for themes for November or things that that you would like me to cover for the whole month of November, also let me know. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.